But yeah, I thought of you actually a few weeks ago. I opened up like the first few days of the quarantine. I was halfway through No Ego and I finished it. Um,
Such a good book.
yeah, it was.
It's life changing.
I really liked how just totally firm it was. It was like on the brink of just being mean. It's like it's okay. It's
I was
okay
a
to
I was offended quite a few times
really
throughout
what.
the book because I was like, I'm guilty of like half the things in there, or at least I was. And then I was like, this is my problem. And like I knew this was my problem, but I guess this was like the validation I needed to see. So like, I wish I read that in the beginning of my career.
It's like the book was written for a reason.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, who would have thought?
So what were the big things that what were the biggest things that opened your eyes that brought it home for you? What were you doing, and what do you think you're gonna change because of it?
So with no ego, I guess I never had like a true understanding of what an ego was.
Hmm.
So I felt like ego was like directly correlated with arrogance and like how you thought of yourself whatsoever, and not necessarily like the subtle characteristics of it. So with me, I would say that my excuse is not to do something were logic, but that was just my ego justifying itself. And I learned that there really isn't a difference. So I was like, not groundbreaking, but that was just huge for me.
Yeah, I think that it provided a lot of. I think oftentimes the most groundbreaking things are just like the little points or epiphanies that are like just tiny little things.
Right. The little like minuscule things that most people tend to overlook.
Hmm.
That's like that's the most mind boggling to me.
Yeah, I think of it as like a cruise ship, and a cruise ship is obviously a cruise ship can't take like super um uh what's it called, like the angles of a turn that the cruise ship can make. It can't
Like
be.
sharp turns.
Yes, thank you. um so you have to kind of change the dial a little bit. So if you change the dial 1 degree, you won't even feel it on the cruise ship. You won't
Right.
feel like you're making anything different. But a day after traveling in that cruise ship, you're in a totally different place because you changed that 1 degree.
Right. And you're consistent with that too.
Hmm. Yeah, I really liked, and Asher talked about this when we saw him in Philadelphia. I just really liked the the
What would great look like in this situation? That
no.
was a good one too.
Yeah, I mean it was, but what really stuck out to me, what's the opposite of like advocating? It was really just kind of like diminishing the utility of just bitching, like venting.
Right.
Um, and it's one of those things where I always felt that way, but to hear it, like you said, I felt validated. Like to hear it put in a
Right.
very articulate manner, a very well written manner, was really cool because I was just like, yeah, I think people think to be a good leader, you gotta like hear everybody out, no matter what.
Right.
Give everyone the right to speak, and everyone's word is the same. It's just like that's no, it's not true.
Right.
Like you have people who really care and who are incredible at what they do, and they show up every day, and they want to improve themselves and improve the place where they work. They want to improve their team, and then you have people who just are sort of riding the wave and just doing the bare minimum and don't necessarily care about what they're doing. It's like, do you really want to give both of those people the same weight in their words and
Right.
how they carry themselves? No, no, no.
And it's so I thought that was ironic as well because in most workplaces they thrive for like equality, not necessarily like color of skin equality or like diversity equality, but in terms of like mindset, everyone wants to be on a level playing field, but you have to get past tryouts before you're even allowed on the field, if that makes any sense. And that's
Yeah,
something that like I didn't think two steps back to at the time. At first I was like, what do you mean no one's opinions are like weighed the same? And then the author dug into it more. I was like, oh well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I think
yeah.
that was a big learning thing too. Like I said, like I got offended a couple of times during the book because I was basically getting called out on my shit,
Hmm.
and it just like teaching myself to be open and accepting that I was like in some ways you know, like the negative character or the antagonist in this book, that like that was like a humbling thing for me too.
Mhm.
And overall putting my ego aside to accept that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's awesome that you got that out of it, which I'm sure the author would love to hear. I mean, you brought it up in one of the big meetings I remember once, and you were just talking about the utility of the book and whatever it was pertinent to whatever we were talking about, and you said, "Yeah, it was kind of hard because I'm a very prideful person. I'm a very egotistical person." I'm sure you didn't
Mhm.
use that word, but that's more or less
Something
what you
along
mean.
the lines of that.
Yeah. So that's great. It's crazy. Um, I felt the same way. Like I was like, yeah, I'm not a very egotistical person because, like you said, I'm not like arrogant. I'm not an asshole.
Right.
I didn't have all of these opinions of myself, but I definitely, yeah, I read it and I was just like, man, I often, it was the part where it's just like people will reach out to people just because they know that person will stroke the person's ego. And
Right.
sometimes if I was having a bad day, I would call like the right person and complain enough to just because I wanted to, in the back of my head, I wanted them to just say something nice about me or like
Right.
say something positive about me so I could just be like, yeah, you know what, you're right.
Thirst traps.
Yeah, exactly. um but this is great, man. Thank you. Thanks for coming on here.
Of course.
I I was looking forward to having people on that I don't know super well, and I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm very close with like Mike and James, so
Right.
um, this is great. Hopefully, we don't hate each other after this more than we already do. Gonna ask you a couple questions. Kim, what is what's something that a lot of people love, most people love, that you think is just totally overrated?
I'm gonna get like my house egged after saying this, but I cannot, absolutely cannot stand The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or Bachelor in Paradise or anything like that. I don't see the appeal in it whatsoever, and I like it's not like all reality TV.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
girl, I love the Jersey Shore. Don't get me wrong, and I know some people hate that, but something about Bachelor drives me nuts. And like, I get it; it's entertainment. It's supposed to be stupid, but I can't sit through like a single episode of it.
How could you, even if you really did have feelings for a guy, how could you how could you make it through? I don't know how long it lasts, like a month, 2 months, I don't know. Like being in a room with other women who are like sharing just as much intimate time with him, like they're you're all kissing him, like he's literally just like picking and
It's
choosing.
not intimate though, and that's what I feel
Yeah,
like people don't acknowledge either. And I feel like in that type of situation, you're not picking someone you're actually in love with. You're just, for lack of a better term, picking like the lesser of two evils.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you have to choose someone at the end. You know what I mean?
And the how do they pick like the group of men or women? Like, do you have to like? Is there any research done about like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette? And you're like,
So
yes,
it's
I do love this person. Let me fight. Let me fight for this person's love.
so from my knowledge of it, because like all my girlfriends back home, they watch it together every Monday, Tuesday, whatever the night of the week it's on. And they're like, "Oh, so and so's on from like Nick's season, or like Gianna's on from like Todd's season." So I guess they like recycle these people. What I want to know is like what's going on up in your head that you have to go on multiple seasons and like expect that's like literally the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Like, doing something over and over again and expecting a different result. I don't know.
Well, and just like different dudes or different girls. You're
Girls are
like
crazy. I didn't
everyone.
say it. Girls are
ev-
crazy.
Everyone's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know.
Everyone's crazy. Um, yeah, it's nuts. And it's like at the end of it, I don't know. I just couldn't picture it. Like, um, okay,
I'm
like
surprised they don't get as catty as they like as I don't know.
wasn't there a documentary done or like a movie that was made about the shit that goes on behind the scenes of shows like that?
I don't know, but I would totally watch it.
I'll look it up after this, but it might have been a movie, like with actors. It wasn't real, but it's like they're filming a reality show like that, and obviously it's dramatic by itself, but they have to have, they need to do well in the ratings. Like they really
Right,
need to bump it up as much as possible. And
right.
apparently, I don't know if it was one of these shows or something else, but like
Excuse me.
it, producers of shows like that are notorious for like having no morality, like doing incredibly immoral things, like behind the scenes to like get the contestants to
Stir the
battle
pot,
it
I
out.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, and just be as entertaining as possible to make as much money as possible, obviously.
I
But
remember watching, like, one I didn't watch, like, the whole season, but I wanna say about half of it, and this was probably, like, 2 or 3 years ago, and you can look this girl up. Her name's Corinne, and she was, like, one of the few contestants, like, going for the guy, so I guess that's The Bachelor.
mm,
Um, and they had to have hired her knowing, like, she was gonna stir the pot, like, yeah, I wonder, like you said, if there's someone, like, whispering in their ear in the background to, like, cause drama or whatnot, because I think that episode, like, they do a night, like, I think it's, like, the last 3 or something where they do an intimate night, and the guy spends, like, a night with each girl
hmm,
to, like, explore the physicality of it. Again, it's kinda gross.
that's true love.
Yeah, but this girl, like, stirred the pot and interrupted someone else's, like, private night.
Mm.
I was like, I mean, I watched it. It got me to like sit through it, but
Yeah, it won. It was successful. I mean, it's
brilliant.
you've heard maybe the story of the first season of The Apprentice when there was this woman, I forget her name, but this woman, they make it a certain amount of episodes in, and then uh, they visit Trump's apartment
Oh my god.
in Manhattan. It's like solid gold. Like half of it is literally like the furniture, the walls, like it's gold, like solid.
Comfortable.
Yeah, and they walk in, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, like wow, this is Trump's apartment. Like, look at this. This is a successful person's apartment." And there's this one lady, and she walks in, and she's just like, "Ugh, this is disgusting. This is the tackiest." Like, ugh. She's not hiding the way she actually feels because it's like gross. Like,
Right.
I don't care like how much money the person has. Like, if everything's gold in your house in New York, it's just like it's ridiculous. And
Yeah. It's a very
she
New York thing to do. That's for sure.
yeah, and he had like a throne, like a golden throne that he would sit on, and um, the producers they cut out every bit of her reaction, and they approached her. They were like, "Look, you gotta act like that. You think this is cool. You gotta act like like you're really amazed at this place, and you find this place to be really really cool." And she was like, "No, I'm not doing that. This place is
Rock on,
disgusting."
sister.
Like,
Rock on.
no. And she didn't make it, but it's like and they didn't. uh, I don't know that they like did anything forceful to her, but it's just like, yeah, it makes you think like these producers have to make money, and they have to have like a certain narrative to push this show. So I can only imagine like what goes on in the dark with, I don't know, whatever show is trying to make it.
That's the thing. Like with the media, you just have like so much control
Hmm.
over it. If you're the one being like the source for it, so much control over it.
Yeah, I mean,
Sort
it's
of
the
thing.
power of just editing in general. Like editing
Yeah.
is a very vague word, but like I was joking about it the other day, but when I had Michael Boyland on, like I went back and I didn't edit any of the conversation, but I did cut off the front and then cut off the end to add like an intro and an outro. And I was like, dude, if I like had the means and the energy to do it, like I could piece together a conversation that is totally different. Like I ask, and
Right.
people do it comically on YouTube. Like they'll have like for the Joe Rogan podcast, which I'm actually wearing a shirt.
There you
Didn't do that on purpose. They'll have like Joe Rogan meets Joe Rogan, and it's like different interview clips where he's asking questions and answering questions, and it's like he's
Right.
talking to himself. Um, that's obviously like a funny version, but it's just like, yeah, you can control people's perception by however you piece together information or however you
Right.
edit things together. Um, yeah, it's wild. Speaking of that, just kidding. That was just gonna be my segue.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'll edit that in the conversation. Uh, Kim, what's a traumatic event, one that you wouldn't wish to repeat that has significantly impacted your life for the better?
Ooh, so this one took me a while to think about because I didn't know like how I didn't know like the depth in which I would go with this. So like I was never someone to have anything like traumatic happen growing up, or I lived a very vanilla life until I went away to college. And I'm not going to use names in this story, but you know, prior to college and even like a little bit going into it, I used to not be the most empathetic, um, caring person in some ways, I guess you could say. I'd be selfish, where like my friends would complain about problems, and I'd be like, "You're being dramatic," just kind of brush them off. Well, it was my sophomore year of college, and um, I had my friends from, I guess it was like around St. Patrick's Day weekend or so. I had my friends from New York coming to West Virginia to visit, and I lived with a girl named Lydia. And throughout the couple years we were already in school, she had a friend from back home that went to school with us as well. Again, I won't say her name, but she was always like on the crazy side, if you will. And
Hmm.
I never had any patience for that. And I put up with a lot just to be like polite, but I, brushed off the bullshit half the time. And that weekend, she found out her boyfriend had cheated on her, who was a douchebag to begin with.
Hmm.
I'm not sorry for saying that at any means. But she comes over, and like my friends and I are just hanging out, and she's just like hysterically crying. And like again, I had no empathy, nor did I care, because like she was crazy, and I was like, whatever, like it's fine, brush it off. Like I think I even told her like, he's a douchebag anyway, don't worry about it. So she goes back to her apartment, and I'm hanging out with my friends. And a couple hours later, I get a call from her roommate that was living with her, who used to be my roommate freshman year of college. She's like, Kimmy, like, so and so locked herself in her room. She has her bottle of Oxy in there and a knife. So this girl, she was a gymnast. She had a ton of surgery, so she had a canister of Oxy. They're like, we can't get into her room. So she comes, picks me up, and takes me to her apartment. And it turns out like she tried to kill herself.
Hmm.
So I broke into the bedroom. There's an empty canister of Oxy. We called 911. There was a steak knife in her bed. No visible cuts or anything like that, thankfully. Tried to make her show up, and the ambulance came and picked her up. And like this whole time, like I don't want to sound again empathetic by saying this. I don't, she could have very well flushed the Oxy down, but they released her like a couple hours later. And usually when you attempt suicide, you stay in for 72 hours.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if she's doing it for attention or what, but end of the day, like I kind of held this guilt with me. It's like, this all could have been avoided if I was just like, even if I didn't care for her all that much, if I was just a better human being and like listened and like was more compassionate towards her. And I think that was a very like life changing instance in my life. And then comes like 2 years later, another friend of mine was putting out the signs, and she tried to kill herself too. So like in a way that helped me prevent another potential suicide. And it's like it overall taught me to be more patient, compassionate, understanding, and something I never considered I needed, to improve on with myself. But she's doing okay now. Everyone's alive, everyone's fine. But it like this is the first time I had to like talk to a therapist after that too. So it really like
Hmm.
took me up. But
Well, that's a phenomenal lesson. That's a phenomenal thing that you took away from it. From between the first two events, are you definitely know that you handled the second event with your friend differently because you went through the first?
Yeah. So I mean, the two separate friends, they were um completely different scenarios. I won't even get into detail about the second one, but
Sure.
yeah, it just the second one could have, I don't know how it would have ended if I didn't learn. And it may sound weird that I'm like grateful for that first
Yeah.
instance, but it like I still hold guilt to it to this day that like was it my fault she got to that point where she felt like, you know, she needed that was her last option. So
It's always, it never feels good that, we take things, no matter how valuable the lesson, from, horrible circumstances. And you just wish that you could get that wisdom without the horrible circumstance, like you just had it in the first place. But it's just, that's just kind of how it works. It's like you didn't learn that without this thing. We always think like, oh, I wish I could go back to like this point in time with what I know now. But it's like, that's, you wouldn't know what you know now without
right,
going through whatever you went through between now and that point in time.
right. I
And
want it to be like known too. Like Rome wasn't built in a day. Like my initial reaction to this happening, I was mad.
mm,
I was like anger was I think the first emotion that came out of me, and that's when I like it really clicked because I was like, how could she be so dumb? How could she be so selfish to do this? Like now I have to take time out of my friends to put up with this and like it yeah, I was mad for like a long time. And then I blamed my distress on her. But then I was like, after talking to my therapist and everything too, it's like, well, let's think about her distress. Like, granted, she had it or not. Like,
mhm.
that's in a way you're feeling what she felt in terms of like a wave of emotions that you've never felt before. Had it was beyond comprehension.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine. And we were kind of talking about this today in Miriam's call. Um, Not to this extent, not to a dramatic extent, you know, like this, but just the difference in how easy it is to be negative and spread negativity. Like negativity spreads way quicker and easier than positivity.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you can you can put something up online and you get 10 comments that, say, hey, great job, like, not like, look at you, like, great, great, great. And then you get one comment that's just like, I think this is overrated, this isn't that good.
Right.
It's like you will only think about that
Right.
one thing. um you never think about how, and this is going to sound cliche, but like all the little things that you could do
Right.
to just like make someone's day. Because you don't always, it does happen, but it's very rare that, you just, when you just listen to somebody, no matter how crazy they're being. And I guess this is kind of different than what we were first talking about with no ego, because it's like, yeah, in a work setting, you don't want to just give people free reign to just, bitch and moan about whatever. But it's like, if it's just like your friend, the little things that you can do, like just listening to them, like looking them in the eyes when they're talking to you, and actually caring about what they have to say. These are things that when you don't feel like doing them, they do feel impossible. They feel
Right.
really difficult.
Right.
And then you always look back and you go, no, it would have been so easy. It would have taken no effort on my part to just be a kind, empathetic individual.
Right.
And, it's hard to quantify that, and to see what that could lead to. But, you know, it just makes the world a better place. I don't know. I don't know how to say it. That's not a cheesy way of putting it out there.
I mean, it's pretty spot on. Cheesy or not.
Cool.
Cool.
Um, no, that's great, Kim. Um, which reminds me.
Hmm.
Nope, just kidding. Another bad segue. Um, I guess this can kind of, I don't know. The last question I was going to ask you, I guess it kind of bleeds into what everything that we were just talking about. And it's a question that I asked James today. We had like one-on-ones with our team, and he called. all of us, and he's like, bring me some questions, like we went over like our finances and everything, and he was like, at the end, I want you to ask me 3 questions, and uh, one of the questions that I asked him was this: it's like, what's something that you could be doing um, to be a better leader, friend, teammate, whatever, uh, right now that you're not doing?
Hands down is reaching out to people.
Hmm.
So I have um I'm trying to think of how to like word this without sounding like arrogant. I have a decent amount of friends in the state,
Oh, good
around
for you.
around
That's
the
that's
country.
awesome. Yeah. Oh, so they're
And
everywhere.
and I swear to God, you have to see my snap map to believe it. Some are just acquaintances at this point, and that's I mean, I know the phone works both ways. Granted, like, you know, when we were working, I didn't have a lot of time to like reach out to people or like, see how like post graduation's going or anything like that. And something I have been doing, and admittedly, like we've been out of work for almost 3 weeks now, but it only started the beginning of, well, the end of last week, was reaching out to people that I used to be so close with and that like we drifted apart with. Um, and taking that initiative to do that, like not just waiting to hear from them, which I wasn't like in my mind, I wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to reach out to them till, you know, I hear from them. It's just like it slips your mind, and I feel terrible saying that because your friends shouldn't slip your mind, but
Yeah.
it's so easy to get caught up in this busy world, and we have nothing but time now. So I've been shooting people like messages here and there, like not overwhelming myself because then I'm blonde, I get confused easily. I've missed up conversations. I don't know. Um, but there's people that like played such an important role in my life, um, even post pre power, not post power,
Hmm.
that I haven't reached out to. Like I don't know how they like their job that they're in now. I don't know why they left their job after graduation for another one. Stuff like that. And again, that's another thing. I'm very guilty conscious, so that's something that also weighs heavily on me.
Hmm. No, that's I think that's beautiful. It's really difficult. I don't know anyone who's like, yep, every single person I would like to keep a relationship up with, I maintain it perfectly. Like there's too many people,
Hmm.
um, and there's just too much going on, and that's not at all to say that um, we don't get lazy. Like
Right.
we all have that problem where we just get lazy and we're like, and like same thing that we were talking about before. Like, oh, it feels like the last thing I want to do right now is like call this person I've been thinking about calling. But it's like if you do that, chances are you're not going to regret it at all. You're going to be
No.
really, really happy that you did so, and so are they.
Right.
Um, and you mentioned at first, like it goes both ways.
Hmm.
You can't blame yourself for 100% of why a relationship hasn't maintained itself over the years. It's because of two people, but you can only control one of those people, and it's what you do, obviously, and you know you can huff and puff and get mad and let your ego get in the way, or you can just swallow your pride and just like fucking call the person.
Right.
And
And that was like it was even one of my New Year's resolutions too,
hmm,
to like reach out to more people. And I did here and there, like when we came back from our power trip to Mexico, I was still home on Long Island for a couple days, and I reached out to like one of these girls. Her name's Elena. I used to be so close with her. We grew up together. We've known each other since we were 4. Really tight friends all throughout high school. We kept in touch a little bit throughout college. Obviously, we were a couple hundred miles apart, and then we just kind of the conversation stopped, but like we still supported each other on social media or like yeah, basically social media. And I was really proud of myself. I asked her to like get dinner with me and one of my best friends, Haley, who I still keep in close contact with. And it was like a little reunion, and it was felt great. We were
hmm,
talking for maybe like 4 hours till the restaurant closed. It was awesome.
yeah, and I almost think like are we as humans, like they say that like studies of social media and just like tribes, villages in general, they say that we, like a human being on average, can only maintain about like 150 relationships, and that's like close friends.
Even that's a lot.
It is a lot, but that's like even acquaintances.
Okay, gotcha.
Like people where you can like say more than three things about them, but like you don't have to hang out. It's like best friends to close friends to good friends to like
Gotcha.
acquaintances. Like that's all, it encompasses all of that.
Hmm.
But it's like, yeah, don't you really only maintain relationships over the years with your best friends? And it's like, it's kind of like a funnel, you know? Like, I don't want to cheesily make the analogy to like pitching people, but it's almost like a numbers game, you know?
Yeah.
And like the bet, like you meet 100, 150 people, and you only have like two or three. What's up, puppy?
She's like, she was curious.
She's like, when are you gonna ask me a question? We'll have our own episode. Don't worry. Um, I'm very lucky. I have, I would say, like five best friends,
Right.
like that I could call, and I know, and now it sounds like I'm bragging. Like I know that that's kind of a lot for absolute like best friends.
Right.
Um, but it's like even like five out of 150. A lot of people I know, they have like one best friend, like their blood brother, their blood sister.
Mhm.
It almost makes me wonder. It's like,
Did you hear?
yes,
My roommate's like right outside this window right now doing yard work. So she does not like him.
I'm glad it wasn't something that I said.
No.
Um, it makes me wonder, like, are humans meant to have a large amount of like best friends that you're constantly keeping up with, and you know everything about, and you're there for them 100% of the time? And
I feel
I
like
think,
that question is so relative.
what do you mean?
So like are humans like supposed to have, like five close friends? Are humans supposed to live to be like 85 years old? Like I feel like no matter what
I'm
question we ask, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule.
I did, I guess, supposed to. I shouldn't have said that. That I misspoke. Designed. Are we
Oh,
designed?
right.
Are we capable? Are we capable of? Is anyone capable of having 20 best friends? Um, I think, I don't know. I think not. I think the higher the number gets, I think that the higher that you think that number gets, the weaker the relationships, because
Yeah.
you only have a certain amount of gas to give, or a
That's
certain amount.
literally like the definition of diluting something, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I get that makes sense.
Um, and I didn't say any of that to contradict anything you said. I hope
Oh
that's
no, 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 I didn't take it that way.
okay. Cool.
You son of a bitch.
um, I think we have to find a balance.
Oh yeah.
You have to find a balance between just like in your head cutting people off, like cutting people out of your life totally, but understanding that like you're not talking every day for a reason,
Right.
and that's okay. It's okay to not, like, relationships fade away,
Right.
and you can't really force it. The harder you try to force it to come back together, it's not a strong relationship.
Yeah.
And that's for like romance, friends, whatever. But
That was always a toxic trait of mine as well. Like even friends I've had that treated me so poorly or like were not good for me no matter what they did. I can probably only name one instance where I truly, okay, maybe two, that I truly cut someone out of my life.
hmm, hmm.
That was like, all right, I'm deleting this person off everything. I'm not going to talk to them anymore. Only
What was,
people.
you don't have to name any names, obviously, but like what was the difference between that and other times you should have done that?
Um,
What was your breaking point?
The first time was my senior year, and it was the second girl that tried to
Hmm.
kill herself. Um, Long story short, we've been friends with her, me and, a group of girls. We were friends for 3 years throughout college, like sophomore year through senior year. And everything started unraveling senior year. We found out this girl, the one who tried to kill herself, was actually a compulsive liar,
Hmm.
and um, she wasn't diagnosed or anything. So I don't want to like use the wrong terminology or anything offensive, but there just wasn't something right up here where she thought everything she was doing wasn't wrong. Um, Never admitted to lying, even though we had like evidence X, Y, and Z. Then she was like tweeting she was gonna, she doesn't want to be here anymore, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Go to her boyfriend's house in um, Brewston Mills, West Virginia. We drove like 40 minutes to make sure she was alive. They called the cops and everything.
Damn.
Sat down and talked to her for like 2 hours because she wasn't answering any of our messages for like weeks. And then, right when I thought like everything was mended, and I told her, I was like, listen, like, I don't know if I can forget these things that you've said and done and, you know, whatnot, but I'm still going to be here for you. And most people would have just been like, I'm done with you, and would have walked away, but I couldn't. Um, haven't heard from her a month after that. And then she texted me the day before my graduation. It was like, I hope you have a good life because you won't be hearing from me anymore. And like, started a whole other fight, making her the victim
Yeah.
in this whole situation again. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm done. That was the first time. And then the second time I cut someone out was actually less than 6 months ago. And I just saw a reoccurring pattern in my life of these people that like I thought were my friends, and like, you know, patterns of like toxic behavior and stuff. And I was like, you know what? Like, I know this is going to end poorly with how this is beginning. And I just kind of like waited it out.
Yeah. Scott Carrico. I'm waiting until I can do the same thing to him. Is that not who you're talking about?
No.
Oh. Um. Okay.
Someone we worked with though, but she got fired.
Oh.
Can of worms.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. It's a hard thing, and you always like read about it or see it in like an Instagram post. It's like,
Right.
you gotta trim the fat. If someone's not worth your time or your energy, like, but cut them out of your life. And it's just like, what if you've spent years with this person and
Exactly.
and you've had a relationship with this person, and you remember all these times where they weren't toxic. It's like coming to that conclusion that a person is toxic for you. It's one of the most difficult things in the world because you come up with all these excuses as to why you're probably wrong. No, you could probably just work your way around this, or like, no, like, that's
Right.
fine. um
It's exhausting walking on eggshells though.
Exhausting.
Like,
That's the key word, is exhausting.
yeah,
No relationship, whether it's someone that you're dating, you're married to. And um I've found out recently too, like, if it's a friendship, no relationship should be exhausting.
no.
It should be easy.
Oh my god.
You should pick each other up, as opposed to like someone constantly feeling like they're just getting dragged
Preach. Preach.
down.
Amen.
um but man, this was a beautiful, I don't know, however long we've been talking, 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
I was like, yeah, 45.
um thanks for doing this, Kim. Thanks for opening up, because you didn't have to
Thanks
do
for
this.
having me.
Of course. Yeah. This isn't a huge honor for you. It might be kind
It
of
is a
like a
huge honor for me.
it might be kind of a step down. I don't know, we'll see.
You and I had a real conversation literally the day before we went under quarantine
What are we
at
talking about?
Mikey's birthday.
About what?
At Mikey's birthday. That was like the first time you and I like I didn't
Yeah.
say hey. Like we actually had a conversation.
Yes.
And we're
Yeah,
birthday twins, so I mean that's pretty cool.
we are birthday twins. You know what happened in the big meeting? It was like our birthday, and someone started talking, and they were just like, "Yeah, we got a special birthday today." And I didn't know it was your birthday, and I don't care about my birthday, but I was just like, I was in the retail side, just like sitting back, and I was just like, "Oh shit, here it comes!" And someone's like, "It's Kim's birthday," and people were like, "Hey!" And I was just like, "Yo, what the fuck? What the fuck?"
It's so funny you said that because I got nervous because they were wishing me happy birthday in the group me, and that was the first time I knew is I love birthdays. Birthdays are like whether it's mine or someone else's, it's just like my favorite thing to celebrate because I
That's
feel like
crazy.
it's
Let
just
me
a day for like one person that they can have and like whatever. My birthday usually lasts like a week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on like how many days I remember, which typically isn't a lot. So that's why it's usually a 2 week span. I'll at least remember one of them.
Okay.
But they said my name, and I was like, wait, it's Dylan Taylor's too.
Yeah, it was you. It was you.
It was me. I was like, I'm not just gonna like take this for myself.
Oh man.
What
I'm
year?
what'd you say?
What year?
94.
Oh, you're older than me. Okay,
Yeah. Can't you tell?
96.
96. It was a good year.
Yeah.
It's the cutoff, I think, between millennials and Gen Z.
It's like it ranges from 95 to 97. Like, there's not one true source that says. I rather honestly rather be a millennial than Gen Z. I think Gen Z is more fucked than millennials.
Gen Z is getting a lot of shit right now.
Oh my god. Well,
Yeah.
it's because the millennials are breeding the Gen Z, so it's just like
It never ends. It never ends. It's like you can't, I don't know. No one picks their parents. No one picks their environment.
no. My
No.
parents are both boomers, so like I feel like I'm not raised like a typical millennial
Hmm.
because they're very like they were very old fashioned and strict. But now that there's like those jokes where it's like, okay, boomer, I say that, and they like don't get it because they don't have like social media. I had
Yeah.
a
They're
if you
still
ever
working
want
on
to
the
entertain yourself,
cornfields.
yeah, if you ever want to entertain yourself, ask your parents what they think a meme is,
Oh, it's crazy.
or like try and explain it to them. And like it sounds so stupid because like we live with it and we can't even explain. Like there's no definition for it.
Yeah, well, I think it's literally like another language. It's kind of like our generation's hieroglyphs or like emojis, like you put all of this understanding and knowledge and humor into just a little picture and
Right,
maybe a few words, and it means something totally different to you, you know?
right.
Um, that's like when you see businesses post a little picture outside of their front door and it's like a meme and it's not funny at all. It's just not. I can't even think of an example. It's you read it and you're like, this sucks.
That's when you put like a gold star and you're like, good job trying.
Yeah. Yes. Um like it's like who's the embarrassed kid with braces that like the one of the original memes.
Oh, like Ugly Brian or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, like awkward. I don't.
Oh, Awkward Brian, I think was the name.
Okay, okay.
You're talking like with the
It's like purple.
the plaid
Yes.
sweater vest, and he's like,
Yeah, yeah.
love it.
Uh, you see that in front of like a donut shop, and it's just like that moment when you don't eat Dylan's donuts, and you see that meme, and you just go, just like that's not what a meme is. That's not what it's for.
Hi.
But anyway, Kim, thank you again. Thank you for
Of
showing me
course,
your dog.
of
I'm
course. This
glad.
is Forrest, by the way.
Huh?
She's a little camera shy. Her name's Forrest. She's
Forrest. Hi, Forrest.
who's there? She'll like bark a little bit. Who's there? She's like, no, mom. There's no treats.
I'm not going to embarrass myself on this podcast with all of its 15 viewers.
It's exciting. I'm gonna tell everyone to watch it.
Do it. Please do. Anyway, I said thanks like 3 times. Thank you. I appreciate you. It was really nice talking to you, and I will see you soon. We're not going
Yeah, don't be a stranger.
anywhere.
All right, adios.